The morning started with the kind of sound you don't forget. Ceramic hitting brick, sharp and final. And my wife, Lena, gasping as the cobalt pot she was holding broke in her hands, while the woman on our porch blazer, crisp clipboard tucked to her ribs, like a badge, slid a red notice across our doormat and said, "Your planter violates porch uniformity. I'm removing it whether you approve or not." I heard myself say low and steady, "You just assaulted my wife," and she blinked like a metronome and answered. She resisted HOA compliance. That's a civil infraction. Then turned away, like she'd just returned a library book. My name is Cole. We live in Sagebrush Meadows, outside Northlake, Texas. Cul-de-sacs with names like Driftwood and Bluebell. Flags tucked neat kids on scooters, drawing chalk suns, and I don't go looking for trouble. I mow on Saturdays, wave at the mail truck, fix the squeak in the screen door before it annoys the neighbors. But that blue pot wasn't decor. It was where Lena put her grief after we lost our daughter in Toin, 2 coats of glaze, a careful seal, 6 inches inside the porch rail. Under our little flag, never in the way, never chipped, until Pamela Crowley decided uniformity meant using force. In urgent care, Lena squeezed my fingers, while the tech slid her behind the X-ray panel. The nurse asked if we wanted to press charges, and I said, "Not yet," which tasted like a lie. I told so we could breathe. And as we waited, a woman in scrubs asked if we lived in Sagebrush Meadows. I nodded, and she clicked her tongue. They fined me for a birthday banner. I moved out last year. You know what I mean? And I just stared at the floor tile, counting the hairline cracks, trying not to think about the dark ring on our porch, where the pot had stood like a small anchor. I dropped Lena at home with her sister, then drove to the community green, where the board sets up folding tables to hand out flyers about bin placement and mailbox color. And I started asking questions like a polite man who'd run out of patience. An older guy by the memorial bench told me Pamela once said his late wife's rocking chair clashed with his trim color. He told her to take it up with a ghost and got 4 citations. The next month, unauthorized vintage artifacts. He pointed me to 18B, Juniper single mom, basketball hoop, and at that door, a 10-year-old opened wide-eyed, while his mom in scrubs listened to me describe the broken pot and said, slow and dangerous. She told me if we didn't take the hoop down, she'd call CPS. Letters kept coming. No headers, just her initials. "You still have them?" I asked, and she brought a folder with the same bad logo, the same threat tone, the same missing vote record. The more doors I knocked, the more the pattern drew itself. A veteran told his small flag needed dimensions. Registered a contractor hit because his circular saw was visible in his open garage. For more than 5 minutes, a grandmother dinged for disharmonious wreath presentation. Wind chimes that allegedly disrupted street symmetry. And every face had that mix of tired and embarrassed, angry at themselves for being embarrassed in their own homes. Yeah, that happened, and it keeps happening because people decide $2 costs less than a weekend of fighting someone with a clipboard. That night, I set the red notice next to Lena's sling on our kitchen table and stared at the porch where the soil ring looked like a bruise. She asked if I was going to let it go and gave me a small smile that was more steel than curve. I said, "Not this time," and at 9 a.m. The next day, I walked into the city's Housing and Governance office. No speech, no lawyer. Just a request at the counter to verify the enforcement status for Sagebrush Meadows HOA, the clerk. Name tag said Karen. Life's little joke. Clicked, frowned. Clicked again, leaned back and said, We don't have an active charter renewal on file since 2019. There's a placeholder from '20, but it wasn't notarized or processed. If they're still collecting dues and issuing fines, technically they don't have standing, and the word technically landed like a key in a lock. On my way home, I saw two of Pamela's so-called compliance officers step out of a gray SUV, one with a tape measure, one with a clipboard. They didn't knock, they just walked my porch. Like surveyors who lost the map by the time I pulled in, they were leaving. And waiting on my mat was a new notice for a non-conforming porch light, the same one our builder installed in 2009, and that the original HOA filing approved in a packet I still had. So now it was obvious they were flooding the street with fines, so no one would remember the moment she hurt my wife. I called Mark Ellison. Treasurer quiet, as a library accountant's brain didn't pick up. But an hour later, I found an envelope under our doormat, with my name written in careful lowercase inside a thumb drive, and a note. I am not a hero, but I am not blind. M. And on the drive, a spreadsheet cross-referencing 47 citations against board votes, half with no vote record, others approved after the letters were mailed, plus audio files with paper shuffling and a coffee pour. And then, Pamela's voice clean as glass. We'll draft the vote retroactively. Audit exposure remains low as long as residents remain passive. And if you ever wonder how a neighborhood starts feeling like a company town, it's not one rule, it's 1,000 small ones. Enforced at odd hours by people who learn, most of us are tired. I'm the opposite. Slow to anger fast on paperwork, so by dinner I had a binder with dividers, city printouts, neighbor letters, doorbell stills, Lena's urgent care report, and a simple timeline. That never lies, 2019. Charter expires 2021. Placeholder unprocessed 2023. To now enforcement continues, and I knocked on Mark's door. We sat at his kitchen island with a jar of peppermints between us. Like an exhibit, he told me, Pamela controlled board emails, drafted votes after the fact, waived copies instead of filings mocked his access. When he pressed for minutes, so he started recording meetings on his phone and saving anything with her signature to a USB in his glove box. I asked for copies, he said yes, or I asked to use his name. He stared at the peppermints, then said yes again. I filed for a municipal hearing under Article 14, Section B, the part of the code that lets the city suspend an HOA operating outside legal parameters, especially when money's involved. And the clerk said most complaints are 2 pages, while she hefted my binder like a small dog. The hearing went on the calendar for Thursday, at 9 small-room linoleum floors, walls that make everything sound like a secret even when it's not. I got there early. Mark sat next to me with his fingers laced like he was holding them still on purpose. And at 8:56, Pamela walked in without a clipboard. For the first time, manila envelope hugged to her chest like a shield, hair perfect and eyes busy. The compliance officer, G. Kessler kind eyes, started formal. The matter concerns the legal standing of Sagebrush Meadows. HOA to issue citations. Collect dues, enforce bylaws. Please present. And I did the thing I do. No fireworks, just dates and proof. City record shows no valid charter. Since 2019, placeholder in unnotarized and unprocessed enforcement. Without authority, injury on my porch audio, where Ms. Crowley instructs retroactive votes. I slid the flash drive. The projector hummed, the room filled with small sounds. Then Pamela's voice played, and someone in the back said, "What?" Like a prayer and an accusation. Kessler turned to her. Crowley, can you confirm whether the 2021 charter was properly notarized and filed with officer records? Her mouth opened-closed. I don't recall the exact version. I was assured by a prior board secretary that our standing was intact. Who was the secretary? There was a vacancy. I assumed interim duties under guidance, whose guidance stare at table pen, scratching on a legal pad. Then Mark stood and gave dates, file names, locked emails. Pressure to keep the ledger looking active, and said the line that cost him something. I regret not speaking sooner. Kessler looked to the panel and read the words that cut the room clean. Effective immediately, the board's enforcement authority is suspended all citations and fines since the 2019 charter expiration are under administrative review. The association's collection account is frozen, pending verification, and you could feel the air shift that quiet before a storm that never comes. Because the storm already passed and took the roof, you didn't need with it. 2 nights later, Pamela tried to regain the room called a community meeting at the clubhouse, even though the city letter had gone out. People showed up, arms crossed. Voices tucked away for years. She started with, "There's been a clerical delay. Our mission remains unchanged. We are committed to visual harmony and safety." And I stood. Not loud, just done. The city suspended the HOA because it legally ceased to exist in 2019. This isn't clerical, this is expired. I handed a volunteer the flash drive, and we let the room hear her say the quiet part again. We maintain authority as long as the community believes we have it. And no one booed, no one clapped. They just leaned forward like a whole neighborhood. Inhaling at once, Mark said. "I turned everything over to the city," Carrie said after I asked to see the charter. "My access was terminated. And when Pamela reached for good faith, I said, 'Good faith doesn't heal broken arms.' And I didn't look at her. When I said it, I looked at Lena, wrist-taped chin up. The formal order hit the next morning. Suspension pending restructuring enforcement powers, terminated financials, frozen. And the strangest thing happened. The block got louder. In the best way. People started laughing in driveways again without measuring the volume. Someone rehung a flag a little higher. We put a new cobalt pot in the same place and packed the soil with our hands firm and slow, a small anchor set back in place. Was it worth it? People asked the binder. The hearing, the looks, the notes under the doormat. The late nights wondering if I'm the problem for not letting things go. I don't have one sentence for that. I just know authority that exists because everyone's too tired to question. It isn't authority, it's theater. And theater collapses. The second the audience stands up and flips on the house lights, power doesn't leave with a speech. It leaves with a paper trail, with quiet people who show up at 9 a.m. and say, "Here's what happened, and here is the proof." Maybe you wanted handcuffs. Maybe you think I went too far. Maybe not far enough. Here's the twist that might bother you a little. Pamela didn't apologize, and yet the second those words were read, enforcement suspended account. Frozen, the thing she built on bluff, fell through its own floor. That's justice. I can live with the kind that doesn't depend on whether the villain looks sorry. So tell me, where's the line on a street like ours? Is order the same as obedience? Do we accept a fine because a clipboard says a wreath is disharmonious? Or do we say, show me the vote? Show me the charter. Show me your right to say no to my small. Yes, you know what I mean. Drop your take in the comments. Tell me if I did the right thing, or if I should have swept the shards and paid the $275 to keep the peace. And if you're living a version of this right now, porch light flagged. Kids hoop threatened flag. Suddenly needs permission. Subscribe. Share your story and tell us where you think the line is between keeping a community beautiful and making it afraid because neighborhoods don't get better because someone whispers harmony. They get better because people speak up, and then they stand.